We steal from you guys, basically. Sometimes.
That's what the guy. That's what Yella did. He did exactly that. But it's interesting with the fear stuff. What did I say? Oh yeah, because we're out in the back garden. There was a beautiful blue sky, and it's the Australian bush, so it's gum trees and eucalyptus, and you can smell it because of the summer. And I said, there's an old saying: blue and green should never be seen unless there's a belt in between, which is an old-fashioned. That's a fashion rule, right? And he looked up and went, my God, you're right. Because the whole existential discussion about blue and green, and so that there is a painting of blue and green, which should never be seen unless there's a belt in between. So there you go. Wow. But look, I'm amateur. But I did it because I wanted to see if I could use that part of my brain, and it does still work. Still work, but my God, it's exhausting.
Oh yeah, it is. But if you continue, like, you'll see where it bleeds into some of this stuff we talk about. And it helps,
that could be a
discipline.
Yeah, and it's funny, some of the realizations I had as I was in this process, because I because of this work and all the other stuff, and then you think, and so I had a whole series of sort of Debbie style. Wow, which was interesting. But the nest, I talk about the nest of vipers. This bunch of older women who were in there, and my realization was that my role has been with what I came up with was the certain types of people, not just women, but people in general who are quite chaotic. I think I've frozen.
Still hear you.
Yeah. So I'll turn if it's all right, I'll turn the open fireplace off.
Thank you.
I realised that there was this chaos that these we're talking about cluster Bs and those sorts of, and there's a chaos that they bring, and what I've been doing is being part of that too much or trying to temper it, and they sort of send you this message: help me with my chaos, help me with my chaos, but they actually don't want that. They want you to be part of it, and I sort of was playing with that for most of the weekend, which is one of the reasons I chose this, because for some reason the word fear scared the hell out of everyone else in the room.
Is your work going now to be sold as a workshop, Vanderberg workshop?
I think there's something in it. I mean, I don't think he's making a lot of money at a couple of $100 for a weekend, but yeah, I don't know. I think he makes more money selling stuff out of the gallery at a few grand to throw than he does teaching Muppets like me how to paint. So.
You're being easy on yourself. I like that.
I had a great time, but I could read the dynamic. Thank you to everyone. See what was going on.
Well, it's good. It's good. It's a good activity. Like, if you really, talking about disassociating or kind of meditating in a way, like, because you're randomly painting something or pick a word and you did what you did with this fear, and then you show it to people and it reads completely different. Now, if you take that same thing and turn it around, you start looking into the negative space. You start seeing it become other objects.
And that's, you're right. We were talking about the negative space, because to get that's white paper with color around it. That's actually the complete opposite of how you would draw an F, an E, an A, and an R. And so that did my head in, which is why it looks like I've had a stroke as I was doing it, because it's completely topsy-turvy. That was the start of the exercise.
Yeah, and negative space can also be translated, say, in this group as blind spots.
Yes, blind spots, or if you're paying attention to the content, you don't see what's in the negative space.
Right.
And then if somebody is good at positioning, they can slowly trap you into the content by filling up the negative space.
Right.
And that's what the other students in the class were doing. They were focusing on the content, not on other stuff. So they were sort of they were in here trying to,
Mm-hmm.
and then bashing themselves up, and it was interesting to see that dynamic. I just went, oh, okay, well, this is what I'm going to do, see what it looks like.
One time, me and my friends, we were in Atlanta, and we were all, we were there to work on this huge art project. So we were working in like some kind of warehouse. So there was that evening, it was a weekend. So that evening they had a sip and paint thing, and we decided to go there and just kill the whole thing. Like, you know how sip and paints are very simple, like, it's a sunset and a blah, blah, blah. So what we did was elaborate more and added like all this extra stuff to the theme. And just be like, I've never painted before, and then paint all this amazing stuff, but based on the the sunset and the horizon thing. But we all did like different abstract styles and things like that. It was hilarious because people were, wow, you guys are amazing, like for first timers. They're all professionals.
Oh, they brought it. They bought your fake act.
So it was hilarious.
A ploy. Okay, let's see. How shall we make this interesting today?
We are live!
Hello! Here we go, here we go!
Are you ready?
And nothing happens.
Sorry, I've got to take this call from a scammer. Hang on.
So I threw this in the comments as a short video. Let's see how this lands.
On our side of the spectrum, we have a real problem with other people suffering. We have a real issue with just letting people suffer in front of us. Are you saying we should stand idly by and let people be tortured? No. What I am saying is that we have a kind of a phobic, neurotic response to letting other people just carry their own burden.
So this sort of trigger of how codependents get played, this sort of phobic response.
Have a kind of a phobic, neurotic response to letting other people just carry their own burden and to letting other people just carry their own responsibility as an adult in the way that we would. And we perceive other people carrying their adult responsibilities as they should, as suffering, as torture. They'll tell you it's the worst thing in the world to try and trigger you into feeling like that's something you need to do something about. But it isn't. It is hard to be a human. Part of growing up involves suffering. There's no way around that, and you have to accept it.
There's no way around it.
Suffering. There's no way around that, and you have to accept it.
So if I'm good at playing victim, then I can find people that fall for the victim card, or people who are uncomfortable with suffering, so I can act out suffering, and then that could be weaponized. Oh, Monique joined. Welcome, Monique.
Hi.
Monique.
Hi.
We
Hi,
just
Brad.
started.
Hi, Debbie. Hi.
We'll see what kind of energy we have. Any reactions on this video? Or you want to go deeper?
I think
I
it's
see this on the Nextdoor app that I have where neighbors do comments. If they see a homeless person on the street, one person will comment on how terrible it is, and then that always gets the most comments, you know what I mean? A lot of people have every idea how to rescue the person that they saw at the bus stop or something. But when other people come in and say, well, you know, what is it that you think you can do? Or what do you want to be done? The people who come in with that attitude, they get attacked by the other commenters, which is pretty interesting, I think.
Oh, Jordan Peterson talked about that Tuesday during the Q&A, that there's a question about highly agreeable people, and then how come they're how come they're not open to feedback? So the left is typically very hardlined. And then he made observation that this reactive compassion, where you just care to care, and that gets altruistic points and whatnot. Actually, but caring where you can't practically help a person, that's what the comment was, right? So you say, I feel bad. And that's where they stop. They don't, can my feeling be bad be translated to anything useful? That sort of, can't go there. Oh, maybe this video might cover that. So there's a bit of a performative aspect of victiming. And this is also on the theme of suffering.
I really don't want to be an adult. I really don't want to grow up, is what they're secretly saying. I'm telling you, the overwhelming majority of people, not all, but the majority of people suffering, adult suffering, is self-created. It's stupidity. People are stupid. They're unpardonably stupid. They do unpardonably stupid things to themselves. They do unpardonably stupid things to each other. And they go, oh boo-hoo, my life hurts. Oh, but does it really? Does it really? That's really strange. What a fucking mystery. That you've drunk yourself into a stupor. You've medicated with powerful pharmacological drugs for years.
Powerful.
That you never bothered to research. Now your body doesn't work very well. Now your mind doesn't work very well. Isn't that oh, you were extraordinarily promiscuous for years. Oh, you didn't save any money. Oh, you didn't do anything to plan for the future. Wow, I wonder why your life is in chaos when you've applied zero discipline.
Now this was during the inner circle. So that's when all the people were trying to peacock to get his attention. And a lot of giddiness in that form. So when I posted this publicly, one person critiqued like, oh, he must have been having a bad day and whatnot. And if I was good with playing with trolls, I could see someone who's going to over-identify with the criticism. Because I think that person also, Mama Panda or something, gave snarky comments before. But one way of overplaying this performance, it's a Brene Brown calls it counterfeit connection, so it's sort of like common enemy intimacy, except it's about performative suffering. Let's see what else he says.
For decades, why would your life be in chaos? No, it's not my job to go out and fix other people's problems. Some people like to suffer. They like to suffer, and ourselves included. Is
That's
they
your
unconsciously
problem.
create
That's your problem.
false drama and false cataclysms, so that whilst they're playing.
So the false drama, that might be the strategy. Let's see if he offers. So if his theory is if someone's creating a false drama, false cataclysm, then what's the play?
This role on the theatre of their lives on the stage, and everybody's looking at them and they're wrestling with this. Oh, look at this problem. Look how bravely I wrestle. Ooh. I really don't want to sort my banking out. I really don't want to go back to college. I really don't want to sort my health out. I really don't want to lose weight. I really don't want to start training. I don't want to learn what a mortgage is. I really don't want to be an adult. I really don't want to grow up, is what they're secretly saying. But outwardly...
At the same time, they could have a developmental issue. So it's not just choosing to be an adult. You have to have some level of containment and life skills to develop into an adult. But there are some maybe who are actively playing the card more to consciously avoid responsibility or try to make other people jump. That being more of a borderline type strategy.
Oh, look. If only... God, if I tell you, if I didn't have this problem, the things I would do. No, it's false.
The things I would do.
They do unpardonably stupid things to themselves. People are stupid.
I was stuck in that like shared fantasy space. And then, shortly thereafter, for a while after I separated, I think that you know, as I watch all this material, that I really took on the MO of the abuser, whatever he was, whatever. I took on his inner voice, which was really chaotic and empty. And I think that, you know, I think that it took a while before I realized it wasn't even, that's why I mentioned interjects, is because like thinking a way of peeling that person away, you know, like peeling them off a bit. Because you've kind of been body snatched for a while, and you're like, you come back to it and you're like, who am I? You know, so it's that's why I kind of wanted to, I was excited to find this group, because I've been talking about this stuff in this, with this language, trying to avoid being a victim anymore. You know, I was like, I'm done. And so when I saw that your group was like harsh, I was like, yeah, that's I don't need anyone to pat me on the head and say, oh, it sounds like you had a bad time. Oh, too bad. You know, no. There's someone to say, what the fuck are you thinking, girl? You know,
wake you up from all the internal interjects.
So I'm here in my body for the most part. So, but yeah, I've been thinking a lot about that, about how to peel away those extra layers of like, and then how to get back into your own head. Am I coming from his MO still, or do I have my own, or like, that's all. Thanks.
Oh, so it sounds like you're still trying to sort out reality versus implanted stuff. Let me get a refresher on Brandon's interjects. I think this might be the one with the cell phone.
In any intimate relationship, not necessarily with somebody with NPD, this is what happens. The closer they are, the more powerful the interject is. Once that interject that's powerful has come through, it goes into the other people part, the recording device, and then it gets uploaded to the cloud, and then it's stupidly, non-intelligently replayed again and again as a recording, which is called, what's it called, class? An injunction. It's a superego injunction.
It's a superego injunction. So you're throwing that into the room. How do we help Laura find herself and separate from her interjects?
Time
Any
and
takers?
distance.
Time and distance. Okay.
And I'm a musician too, so I can relate to the whole like losing yourself and being into the art and being really into it, because I play guitar and piano and I sing, and I'm going to play out there before too long. I'm getting it. That's my goal. I want you guys to hold me to this someday. I say, are you playing out yet? So, because I can really grasp that, like being able to, feel better with art. So.
Have you tried Socratic inquiry? Questioning the interjects? Talking to the demons?
All day long.
Oh. I think Brandon had something about if you talk to the demons in the right way, they have to answer you. This one.
So don't cope. Don't cope. Look at it. Look straight at the demon. Look at it and ask it, what are you? It has to answer you. Demons operate by ancient laws. And when you ask them what they are and you ask them what they want, in every culture, they are bound by law to answer you. And you just say, what do you want? And if you can hear, it will tell you what it wants. It wants to trick you. It wants to trick you into despair. It wants to trick you into giving up.
Trick you into giving up, into despair, trying to pull your strings. Or Socratic questioning. Where is it?
What I found useful was so this is me adding on my bit now. Was as I was going through this process, was kind of like a dialectic. Socratic interaction where I would say, that's interesting. So apparently I'm a worthless piece of shit. And the inner critic goes, yeah, you're a maggot. And I go, have I always been worthless? Yeah. Oh, so I've never done anything good. Never done anything good. Yeah, that's right. And I could feel it shrink, not disappear, but shrink. Like,
see, so talking to his golem, he was able to just keep talking, and he felt some sort of shrinking or separation.
The certainty goes. And I would say, well, you're part of me. How is this useful? What do you think the inner critic said to that? When I turn around and I get my little philosophical hat on, and I say, how is it useful to tell me 24/7 that I'm a worthless piece of shit? What's the end goal here? Just clue me in so we're all on side, because you're a part of me. How is it useful to only ever have one message for me? What do you think the inner critic said? It said nothing. Because it can't answer that question. Because it's not even artificial intelligence, it's a recording. So it would be like me saying to a tape recorder, why do you play that same song over and over again? It doesn't have an answer for me. It doesn't speak. It can only deliver one message repetitively. And when I realized that, and I started using that Socratic method of questioning, of being like, okay, that's an interesting point of view you have. Where do you derive, what's the evidence for that? And where does that come from? At a certain point in that line of questioning, it would
give me evidence.
Sometimes it would stop, but you could feel a hesitancy and a shrinking of the force. And it would kind of just get quieter. You're still a piece of shit.
So the shrinking, that would be where I'd want to reverse engineer how this works. So how do you shrink or take energy away from the abuser or the inner energy? Because sometimes if you fight back too much, you're giving energy back to it. So you have to give the right amount, the type of interaction that makes it confused or weak, or boredom. That was sort of that video Bradford shared, like dismissive boredom, looking down and being dismissive. So you want to give least amount of energy, but this also asking for evidence. What's the evidence? And if he can feel the inner critic shrink.
But it's over on the other side of it. You still suck. You're still a maggot. I was like, well, no, come back. I'm ready to hear you, but what are you saying? What's your fundamental communication? And what is the agenda here? And that really helped, because I was pointing out to this part of me, you only ever say one thing. And that can't be true all the time, because that's dogma. Nothing is always true.
Dogma.
Nothing is always true. There isn't a person alive who's purely just a useless, worthless maggot. They must have done one thing. So I'd be like, well, tell me the one thing I've done that's good. Nothing ever. I'm like, come on, you know, and I know that can't be right. So there's that methodology as well that I applied to it that I found useful as well.
Socratic questioning. I think this is on Fortress Mental Health. That's where it's taken from. Here, there. Now I had a more aggressive theme of trying to break down the 3 weak points of codependence. Pity, perfection, perspective. So pity was a victim card. Bradford talked about the vipers trying to smother. That's trying to get sympathy. Someone's hurting. I need to rescue someone hurting. That's a pity plea. Victim card. Perfection, that's sort of Laura's mentioning an inner critic that's blaming and guilt tripping. That's like triggering codependents' need to not be wrong or to avoid punishment. And then perspective, if you get lost into the pity, you lose perspective of journeys and you just get sucked into the victim card plea. Also, you want to perfect one thing, you lose touch with the context. That was sort of mentioned earlier. How do people like this phrasing? I spent years and years to perfect this.
What was the perspective again?
Perspective versus if you lose perspective, you could argue, Eric, could you? I don't like the tone you said that. Could you say it a little nicer? See, then the perspective, you shift it, and I'm guiding your perspective. So a narcissist is able to guide our borderlines better. They're going to do it faster, reactively get you to focus on some different perspective. You followed the sandbox. So yeah, when I say don't follow their sandbox, that's them pulling you into their reframe.
Yeah.
Maybe with Laura's circumstance, and if I'll share what worked for me, maybe this will work for you, we'll see, but framing the narcissist as a joke, as a fool, as an idiot, or whatever, and the fact that you might have to realize that you were conned is going to be part of that. But part of the freeing nature of it is to understand that they needed you to be a certain way so they could be them. So my realization from my painting weekend was that my role in this was to provide whatever it was so that they would, so for instance, chaos. So borderline likes chaos. And so you get involved in the chaos and then you spend all your time trying to stop the chaos, and they spend all their time trying to keep the chaos. And at a certain point when you stop, the whole thing implodes. So what I'm saying is if you apply that to a narcissist or another cluster B, it's a similar sort of equation. So to Deve's point, if it's pity that they're going for the nest of vipers, then we go for perfection, which is to try and fix it all, short-circuit it. And I think if you can overlay that with what Grannon says about that, you're a piece of shit, is probably something that I sort of use. It's a very long way of saying something quite simple.
There's some recent podcasts from some cult podcasts, and one that was interesting was on Bentinho Massara, and he's in the non-dual spiritual type space, but I saw him in person like several years ago before he got bigger, and getting this behind the scenes of how he was abusing yoga teachers and all this other stuff was pretty fascinating for me. But his uniqueness is he's not using the fragile narcissist type strategy of other spiritual teachers. He's doing a more psychopathic or more aggressive strategy. So that makes it an easier example. But the audio is of victims who are still healing, so their emotional tone might trigger people's sympathies or perfection, so I don't know how it's going to come out. Because usually I try to find the most charged one. But this is a guy to a guy, so it might not be as bad as a girl. So this is just audio, so I don't have any video to go with.
My nervous system shut down because I was like, where am I? And that's what's so crazy is how they isolate people within this community and iron out their distortions one by.
So in a cult, they can isolate you, and then they can now flying monkey gang group think you. So narcissists, they do the same thing, but first they slowly isolate you from your friends and your family. And then you're isolated with them, but you can technically escape. But in a cult, you're immersed in the environment, so there's more active brainwashing or indoctrination.
By one, but they hate when people get together and start forming their own opinion about things. they hate when people get together and start forming their own opinion about things.
That's the weak point. Cults know that you having an opinion that's different than the groupthink is dangerous, and a narcissist, borderline, or abuser knows that your different opinion is dangerous, so they actively try to disrupt, attack, get rid of your perspective, get rid of your voice.
So that was when it became very real for me. I'm like, holy shit.
What's that?
You have to keep that pity narrative going, or whatever that first step is.
Well, they keep the pity narrative that keeps your attention on the pity.
That's it.
Then you forget your perspective.
And that's what you're there for. Yep.
Then a narcissist is resentful, or codependent's resentful, so they're chasing. So they remember their perspective, then they keep chasing for the past. But then all the narcissist has to do is create a new pity story. Keep going forward with the pity story while the codependent's slowly forgetting resentment is stuck in the past because they're always chasing. So as long as there's a new forward moving sympathy story, that's sort of this dynamic.
For me, I'm like, holy shit. And it was little things like I told the group that I was thinking about going home to stay with my family, and Bentino messaged the group and he said, Keelan, you realize that's an escape, right? And I'm thinking, hold the fuck up. First of all, why do you have to use the word escape? And second of all, like, what, I can't go see my family?
So he just wants to go see his family. Then Benito changes perspective, triggers a perfection, like going, you're escaping. And there's a moral judgment. So moral judgment, you're escaping, you're a loser for seeing your family. But then he argues the language of perfection instead of, because that's the sandbox. That's playing with meaning. It gets more messier, more exciting. That's why I chose this clip.
To that meeting later that night, and I told him like everything. I'm like, dude, this is off. You called me sweetie, sweetheart, and something he started doing was like, what? I did that? Like, dude, bro, like, so yeah, I started telling him like.
So narcissists do like play dumb. I didn't do that. You heard me wrong. You didn't know. I didn't call you sweetie. I didn't try to emasculate you. What are you doing? Why are you talking? That's like the sort of negative space gaslighting. I do stuff to you, and then I claim ignorance. Like, you didn't see, you heard wrong. That didn't happen.
This is felt off like you're not, the way your company's structured, the way you've been talking to me recently, and he kind of played this card of, what, dude? Like, what? No, like, I don't remember that. Like, no, like, kind of like underplaying everything and still trying to be buddy with me. I'm like, look, dude, like, I don't feel like you want to be doing any of this. And I'm over here trying to create content for you and support your company. And you don't care. You literally don't care about it. And he's like, you're right.
So he's doing free labor. He's doing like social media video, and he sought this guy out. So then he's being resentful. He's like, well, I did all this work. I don't feel appreciated. Look, we have punkage. Audio is loading. Welcome, punkage.
Hey, Pankaj!
Hey, Pankaj!
Oh, it's Pankaj the sheep fucker. Yay.
Fucked a lot of sheep this week.
You look like it.
Cover the secret.
You're glowing with that sheep. You have that sheep. I just fucked a sheep glow.
I have been away for a while. What is this now?
I'm gonna have to explain this.
Fill in Eric.
Laura's looking at us.
Sheep glow.
You'll get me back with the spray paint, the spray can.
Laura, it's a bit of a problem with New Zealand. There's more sheep than people, so we'll just leave it at that.
You just leave it at that. Yeah, let's leave.
Punkage is from New Zealand, so it's a New Zealand joke.
Where the men are men and the sheep are nervous.
And I think it's just that. There might be more to it. We'll find out. Who knows? But we're listening to a gaslighting example, and I'll give some more examples. And it's sort of showing how the three weaknesses, or three doorways for codependence, is they fall for pity please, victim card. They also fall for perfection. So the more you try not to be in trouble, the more the narcissist can poke you and make you off balance. Any sort of imperfection, you're going to want to jump. And then perspective is changing the sandbox or changing meaning, fragmenting context, focusing on content and not focusing on the bigger picture.
Like nothing is real to me. You know, I see through all of this and be buddy with me. I'm like, look, dude, like I don't feel like you want to be doing any of this. And I'm over here trying to create content for you and support your company.
So that's resentment. He's doing content. I'm helping your cause, and I don't feel validated. I don't feel respected for all the free labor I've put into this cause. So he's going to the leader. He's making a reasonable play. He's like, I did this labor. You need me. I'm not getting paid.
Company. And you don't want it. You don't care. You literally don't care about it. And he's like, you're right. Like nothing is real to me. You know, I see through all of this as an illusion. And he kept pointing out to me, like, while we're talking, he's like, by the way, I can see you have a bubble around your head as we're talking, and you think you're a person, and it feels like you want to be held by your mommy, and like all these like sick fucking like.
It seems like you want to be held by your mommy. So that's using new age tactics to psychologize him while he's sharing his resentment. So that's attacking his moral character. So that's a moral judgment attack, evoking shame, imperfection. And it's disorienting his perspective because he's giving resentment. I resent giving you all this free labor. I resent that my complaints get ignored and I get more attacks back.
Things while you're trying to like burst through and form your opinion of the situation. He's like berating you and kind of like digging at you. So you like have to fight through to find your fucking truth. Fight through to find your fucking truth. Fight through to find your fucking truth.
Right there. That feeling. Who has felt that you have to fight to find your truth, let alone that they're not going to hear it, but you're just fighting through to find your voice. That's what it feels like against a narcissist who's under a rage attack. When you've lost your sandbox and you're in between sandboxes or you're in their sandbox, you're fighting to find your truth.
Through and form your opinion of the situation. He's like berating you and kind of like digging at you. So you like have to fight through to find your fucking truth. Fight through to find your fucking truth. Fight through to find your fucking truth. Berating you and kind of like digging at you. Berating you and kind of like digging at you.
You see the futility from his voice as he's trying to recall his own experience. He's not talking from succeeding. He's talking from leaving and still remembering that he failed to connect. He failed to share his resentment. He failed to get his perspective met.
You so you like have to fight through to find your fucking truth. It's insane. But I told him, and I'm like, look, you say to follow people that you want to be like, and I don't want to be anything like you. You know, there might be certain aspects of your character I might like, but I don't want to be like you. And he kind of like pretended to take it to heart and was like, okay, like, yeah, like, thanks. And I'm like, and.
So that sort of was a neutral response from Benito. He sort of said, oh, you see me now. Oh, okay. But he still finds a way. Because perfection is an easy attack. If you are a perfectionist, I can find anything that you're going to be overly perfect on and just criticize. So that's the downside of perfection. You're a perfectionist to avoid fault and blame, but that means you care about too much. So I just have to find something that you care about too much and then poke it. Trigger a wound.
I was like, and by the way, there's this underlying pessimistic undertone under everything you're saying.
Oh, he goes even deeper.
Like, it's like you don't believe in humanity. Within your teachings, telling people about how they can get to the absolute, you're insisting that they'll never get there because they never are capable. You don't like what you're doing. And at the end of the conversation, he kind of pointed it out. Was like, thanks for letting me in on that. I see where you're coming from. I'd have these moments where I'd kind of blow up on him, and because I'd come to some distortions about things, aka the truth, and he'd realize I might be too much to handle. So let me stroke Keelan down and like pat him on the head.
So when he blew up, he started speaking truth. And that sort of shocked Benito. But since he's used to this cult environment where all the flying monkeys shut down anybody's anger, he got rusty on dealing with full-on aggression. But he still found this way of sort of dismissing it at the end.
Come to some distortions about things, aka the truth, and he'd realize I might be too much to handle, so let me stroke Keelan down and like pat him on the head a little bit. Stroke Keelan down and like
right
pat
there.
him on the head a little bit. Stroke Keelan down and like pat him on the head a little bit.
So they'll give a fake love bombing. And they'll turn on the charm to, when you get close to the truth, stroke you down and pat him on the head. Does anyone relate to that?
Yeah, I had a former boss, and she was she had a PhD in psychology, okay? And she would like buy us presents all the time, but underhandedly constantly undermine our work. But then we would like call her out on it, and then she'd be showing up with like new gift cards, and like we'd be like, no, this is not fixing things. So
oh, you're trying to redirect to your perspective.
Oh yeah, no.
Where she's taking you into the sandbox. Look at the new gift. Look at the shiny thing over here.
And she must be smart. She's got her PhD, right? She must be together, right? She's a PhD in psychology, right? Oh my God, it's so
She was trying to buy you guys. She actually thought she could buy you.
She's hoovered me a few times, and it's been creepy. I'm
creepy.
Like, no, I don't want to talk to you anymore.
So this is an example of the hoovering with another Bentinho Massaro survivor.
He was just silent at that point. Like he would just go to dinners and not speak, and it was
This could be a bit more emotionally charged. We'll see. Maybe not.
really uncomfortable. And then when Keelan and I were leaving, the last night we were there, he spent the whole night with me on the couch, and he was just like, oh my God, your hands are so healing. Now he turned on like, I love you again. Like, you're amazing. You're so special. You really do have an angel soul. I started to feel bad for him.
Pity. Love bombing evokes pity because she was hating him or wanting to leave, judging him partially. Now that he's love bombing her, giving her love bombing attention maybe from a parent role, she starts to feel pity.
And I started to feel like, oh my God, what if I'm wrong? I started to feel bad for him.
What if I'm wrong? Maybe my view isn't totally perfect. That's the downside of perfectionism.
And I started to feel like, oh my God, what if I'm wrong? Like
She said, he was saying that she had an angel soul. He was love bombing her. She was wanting to leave with Kalen, the other guy, the other audio I just played. So he was trying to do both hot cult, devalue, and then love bomb back.
I always want to honor both sides. Like I always want to honor both sides. Like I always want to honor both sides.
Now this is a postmodern type trap. This sort of
both sides. Like I always want to honor both sides. Like I always want to honor both sides.
It's a nice principle, but sometimes if your instinct says that person is wrong, if they just trigger some principle, you should honor both sides. All sides have equal flooring. There's strong arguments and there's weak arguments. Just because there's an argument doesn't mean each argument is equal. But simplified, you should honor both sides. It's sort of, you lose perspective. Because you argue fragments. I'll argue a fragment, this is wrong. And then I'm going to equate that to a bigger perspective, a very complicated, nuanced argument you made. And that feels like it's equal. But this is just a baseless claim versus a substantiated argument that multiple people agree with. So it's not equal, but she fell for it right here.
I started to feel bad for him. And I started to feel like, oh my God, what if I'm wrong? Like I always want to honor both sides. Like I always want to honor both sides. Like I always want to honor both sides. It was so convincing that I went back to Keelan's room that night and was like, hey, I think I might need to stay. And Keelan was like, oh my God.
I literally prayed. I said a fucking prayer to God because she was about to like ask these angel cards what she should do.
I put the cards out and there's probably only one card.
And that's the other thing. Codependents don't trust their own judgment, so they need to find a higher authority. So she had angel cards. I think these worked out this time, but sometimes using random third parties to decide.
In that deck that would tell me to get out of there, and I pulled the one that was called the box, and like I literally read it and was shaking. I was like word for word. It was like you're in a cage, you're locked up, like you're held back. You need to get free at all costs. And so Keelan was like,
I was like, see, we got to get out of here, man. I got to go.
And I'm sitting there just shaking in this little terminal, like, please let me leave. And then we boarded the plane, and the plane had some engine trouble, and I was on that freaking plane on the tarmac for 8 hours in Merida, like shaking and praying, like, please just let. I thought he was going to come get me.
So she's on an airplane, and she has shaking terrors that somehow Benitijo or some of his cult followers are going to come and drag her out like it's a police squad or something like that. So there's no actual evidence of this, but because of the cult-like soul murder and the sadistic possessions that Benititos might be playing with, her soul got infested. You're hearing that in the terrors in her voice.
Like, the fight between him and Keelan was so volatile. I was texting Keelan, like, please stop. Like,
oh, and Keelan was like saying, I'm out of here, so I'm going to just dump all my resentment at Benito. So she's on the plane wanting to fly out, and then I guess her boyfriend or friend, Keelan, was pissed off and just dumping all his frustration. Because he didn't buy the Kool-Aid. He was just there for the cause. The rest of the people fell for the love bombing.
I didn't want him to stop, but I just couldn't take it. My nervous system at that point was so fried. So anyways, how am I healing? The truth is I'm not in a lot of ways. And that this is part of this was everyone was saying, like, wait to come out because you're not healed. You're not good. Thank God we found each other and enough courage to literally step outside of everything that tells you to keep your mouth shut and that you are not protected if you do this. I'm just crying. I cry every session. I go and I call Keelan like 7 times a day. I wake up every night at about 1 a.m. and I'm shaking and I can feel like just adrenaline and terror in my body. Adrenaline.
And terror. She said terror. I'm guessing it's terror. Every night at 1 a.m. she gets night terrors. And she's a professional yoga teacher with a giant following, or a decent sized following. So she's an embodied teacher, but even her, with her practice, she was able to get gaslit, where she lost her sense of reality. Or she had soul murder through entities or something.
And tear in my body. And it's just, I don't know if that's ever going to stop. My body is so fucked up. I'm literally like bloated for like a 7-month pregnant person. And my friends and my family are tired. It's like no one is built to understand what this is like. And I don't know if I'm going to have my friends after.
And that's this.
No, actually, the trauma is when you realize that nobody gives a fuck.
Did she say she was pregnant?
Have too much trauma.
Sorry.
No, she looked pregnant.
She looked pregnant. She's bloated to the point of looking like she was pregnant because of the stress.
From the trauma, from the terror, from the possession, from the constant gaslighting in a contained environment.
And what happened when she went to a friend's? Sorry, she was talking so fast.
Exactly, because she was reliving her trauma. That's normal speed. The friends had to push her away. They couldn't relate.
Adrenaline and tear in my body. Adrenaline and tear in my body. And it's just, I don't know if that's ever going to stop. My body is so fucked up. I'm literally like bloated for like a 7-month pregnant person.
Bloated like a 7-month pregnant person. There's a photo on her Instagram where she was bloated.
And my friends and my family are tired. It's like no one is built to understand what this is like. And I don't know if I'm going to have my friends after this. Like there's a wedge right now between us because I asked for more support, but everyone's going through their own thing. And this.
You're supposed to ask for support. That's what therapists say. But when you ask for support and then you're sharing that you have night terrors every night at 1 a.m. and you're bloated and your nervous system's all frazzled, and she's talking probably at a faster pace than this audio. she's got some stability now. She's able to talk on podcasts, but fresh out of the terror. Also, there's financial terror. I think she lost several double-digit thousands or more getting caught up in this messy cult.
This is such a heavy, weird, niche thing that I could lose my best friends in the whole world.
So she had her friends, but since she's talking from the nonverbal trauma, the friends can't witness that. And when you're sharing your trauma, a lot of codependents, they tend to flood or emotionally vomit. That was common in in-person meetings and also in maybe other support groups. New person will come and they'll just start looping and vomiting their story for 90 minutes. And it's hard for friends to witness that because of this. It evokes these wounds.
I don't know how to. So, one, you're disturbing me, and two, you're making me feel incompetent. Fuck you.
So you're disturbing them with pity.
I don't know how to. So, one, you're disturbing me, and two, you're making me feel incompetent.
That's
Fuck
perfection. Your trauma is making the other social codependent not know how to talk back to you, not know what to say right to you. So they're feeling incompetent. And it's uncomfortable, the trauma. So even though there's something about sharing your trauma and sharing your story, if you share it too much, too high, then that'll trigger people uncomfortable, too much pity, and imperfection. It trigger them incompetence. So then you'll have...
I'm really worked up right now. My nervous system is really really high right now. I'm really worked up right now. My nervous system is really high right now.
I miss her so much.
So, this example is a nice twist. I don't know if it's going to land or not. But this sort of, if this lands, this can maybe work. So this is from the Nexium cult, which is also personal development. Keith Raniere wasn't as bad as Ben Kehoe, overtly, even though he did brand a bunch of women.
Basically, what they're saying is, if you're upset about what I'm doing, I don't want to hear about it. And I don't want to have to take any responsibility. And I can't handle that. And I'm going to develop a world around me with its own societal norms where everyone needs to be happy with everything. And if you're unhappy, keep it to yourself. If you're unhappy, keep it to yourself.
So that's the keep your sadness to yourself. That's the underlying message.
Keep it to yourself. Keep it to yourself. I mean, that's so immature at its core, right?
I know. Right? It sounds like a total tyrant, like the guy in the sandbox you don't want to play with.
Well, right. I mean,
Okay,
and I think that's a perfect.
I'm starting to become a lot like that.
Well, it depends.
Thanks to Visceral Gravitas, that's how I think these days.
What happens is people who play the victim card, they silence you indirectly through negative space. Yeah. So they'll say this.
I'm just feeling really attacked right now. I'm just feeling really attacked right now.
And then with wordplay,
now it's just playing with words right now.
They don't let you talk. So
now it's just playing with words right now.
The I'm feeling attacked is a victim plea that triggers a pity. So then, unless you out-victim them, then they get a lot of other audience supply. Then they can mess with words, and then now their pity silences everybody else's feelings. That's sort of the gimmick here. But the end part of this points out a nice pointer.
Example, because I think so many people who run cults really are children. They haven't developed into fully formed human beings who can tolerate things. When they are putting people on the hot seat and going on a tirade, I picture them in a toy store, not getting the toy that they wanted and having a tantrum. And they also don't like to be told no, so they're going to have another tantrum. And yeah, I think that they learn how to have controlled tantrums and have it be manipulative tantrums so that they turn it back on you.
Controlled
They turn
tantrum
it back on you. They turn it back on you.
is a way to turn it back on you by them being the bigger victim. That's sort of where pity pleas come. Therapy will teach you like boundary setting and all this stuff, but then the biggest victim wins the boundary setting. And then if you're whining and say, well, I have 5 other times of resentment, then you look like a wussy. You can't. You have to argue when it happens. If you argue 5 times later, people don't care. So you can't. Technically, you have more grievances. But the person who throws a bigger tantrum in the moment, concentrated, manipulated tantrum, they get the pity prize. They get the victim card. And they're good at it.
I'm just feeling really attacked right now. Feeling really attacked right now. I'm just feeling really attacked right now. Feeling really
and then
attacked
if this
right now.
doesn't work, then they can say,
and I just wonder,
somebody else is the victim, so I'm going to feel pity for this other person and get angry at you.
And I just wonder, I don't know what triggered that person. I don't know if she's going to be okay after this. I don't know what triggered that person. I don't know if she's going to be okay.
And it's a way of changing perspective.
We misdirect your attention. We misdirect your attention. We misdirect your attention. We misdirect your attention. We misdirect your attention.
And if you're only tracking pity and perfection, then your attention follows these 2 other priorities. So this is a more bigger point.
Why don't I just know what I want? Why don't I just know what I want? And then I'm like, oh.
So she lost touch with her wants because she was doing so much self-evaluation, so much journaling. Just, what do you want for pizza? She couldn't answer. Like, well, I don't want to make the wrong answer. Her perfectionism crippled her. Double bind. That was in Neocon's first meeting. He wanted to understand what a double bind is. So, I give you 5 choices and they all are wrong. I give you 2 choices and no matter what you do, I say it's wrong. From a narcissist standpoint, that's pretty easy to pick imperfections because you're always going to be slightly off. That's being human. So, but I present the perfection choice or good choice close enough. And then when you get there, I just move it. Or I say, oh, you're almost there. So it's guiding somebody's attention who wants to be perfect to avoid being judged. And then a narcissist or abuser can sense that out of somebody who's too perfectionist, and they weaponize it. So India lost touch with her needs.
Know what I want. Why don't I just know what I want?
So she couldn't just decide what she wanted like normal people, just like simple stuff.
And then I'm like, oh, well, I haven't really thought about it yet. And I haven't really checked in with myself. And sometimes it's easier to default to someone else.
Well, it's easier. It's safer. It's that you're afraid of being the one to decide because you're going to make the wrong decision.
So you get sensitized to making the wrong decision, so that's why there's a desire for the perfect choice. Or listening to a guru to give you 5 steps or 10 steps. So if you memorize this protocol, this certainty, then that's choosing the path of perfection, but it's countering a fear of not making the right choice, a fear of a double bind, a fear of being judged, a fear of toxic shame.
That is how I feel so much.
Going to make the wrong decision.
And that's like one of my kryptonites. I still feel that.
Gonna make the wrong decision.
Her kryptonite, making the wrong decision. That means the wrong decision is external locus of control. It's outside of her. Where is the right decision? It's somewhere disconnected from her. She doesn't know where the right decision is. There isn't a confidence or certainty around that. That's her kryptonite. And she probably learned it from growing up too. So it's not just a cult. So she was groomed to be codependent, and she fell into a greater abuser.
My kryptonites. I still feel that.
Gonna make the wrong decision.
That remnants.
Gonna make the wrong decision.
Of those beliefs, especially in really big decisions like life decisions. And I'm so worried about either upsetting somebody else or making the wrong choice and being punished.
Right there, upsetting somebody else. That's people pleasing. Or pity, since if you make someone else suffer, then a codependent owns that, takes responsibility for that. It leads to conflict, leads to danger.
Making the wrong choice and being punished, or having them resent me.
A cult leader will tell you you're wrong, but if you can hear, I need for you to be wrong. I need for you to be wrong.
So this is a clever twist. So if you fall for perfection, you're focused on yourself, that you did something wrong. And if the narcissist abuser speaks for your inner critic by saying, you're wrong here, you made a wrong choice here, you fucked up here, trapping you in a double bind perspective. But if the narcissist is not really helping you, that's it. Sincere communication, that's insincere, right? I didn't have that queued up. Where is it? Oh. Okay, lost it. So that's them. You're taking their perfection critique as sincere communication, but there's no sincere communication with the insincere. So then you forget, you lose perspective to see that, oh, here it is.
There is no sincere communication with the insincere. There is no sincere communication with the insincere. There is no sincere communication with the insincere.
So the communication that she heard was,
me.
A cult leader will tell you you're wrong, but if you
hear you're wrong. You hear the judgment. I did something wrong. Your perspective. Somebody says you're wrong, you're a bad person. You're using the wrong tone. You're using the wrong word. You misheard me. Because of your perfectionism, your desire to do better, your assumption of sincere communication, you take it at face value. And you lose this new perspective. Now, in the past, we tried to use this pointer. It sort of works, but
there is no sincere communication with the insincere.
But if you've already considered the communication
with the insincere,
this pointer doesn't work.
Sincere communication with the insincere. There is no.
If you're already pissed off that they said something about you or said you're wrong, and you're fighting, you've already taken it as sincere communication. So then, if you use this pointer,
there is no.
Then you're going to judge yourself again because your perfectionist is saying, I should have known better. I've heard this pointer.
There is no sincere communication.
So you'll double judge yourself with this pointer.
There is no sincere.
Because you placed perfection above perspective. You placed avoiding punishment, avoiding social judgment, being a good person, whatever, higher than what's happening, what's the truth, what's the right perspective. You followed into their sandbox. So the twist is this part. So I'm trying to stretch it out, and maybe one person might get it. Or if not, maybe someone on YouTube might get it. So, very low expectations of perfection for me, even though I probably spent 5 years trying to find the magic fix. I probably will still fail. This is a nice twist from Rachel Bernstein of Indoctrination.
You can hear, I need for you to be wrong. I need for you to be wrong.
That's the twist. There's two needs. The codependent needs to be right, or needs to do it right, needs to make sure you don't make the wrong decision. The narcissist just needs the other person to be wrong. They don't need to be right. Which is easier to do.
That's what I was getting at with Laura.
Mm-hmm. But which is easier? It has to be something easily digested. The more you listen to the words, it's easy to fall into perfection. I've got to make sure I do this right and follow all these different threads. If your goal is to do the right thing, which is honorable, that means you improve. That means you learn skills. But if the narcissist's goal is just to make you wrong or make anybody else wrong, which is easier? And if the narcissist can use insincere communication and lie and just distort, gaslight anything, it's much easier to make somebody else wrong instead of making sure you're blameless. So we call like narcissists blame shifting all this stuff, but all they have to do is make a codependent wrong. And if this doesn't work, then they just cry victim. Or they do both. They play victim. I've been traumatized, blah, blah, blah. Watch some Lee Hammock videos, see how he's expert at playing victim. And you're wrong. Anything I can do to prove you're wrong.
I need for you to be wrong. Because if you're confident, you won't be dependent on me. You can go, and I don't want you to go.
That's the second trap. I need you to be wrong, and I don't want you to go. Even though I'll say I want you to go. Me making you, judging you, hooking you, means you don't go. Even if you go, I'm in your head. So, that's the double whammy. The abuser, all they need to do is make you wrong, make you guilt trip, trigger your guilt, trigger your toxic shame. And they don't want you to leave, because then that means they can feed off your attention. They want you chasing. They need somebody to blame. They need someone to dump their toxic stuff on. They need the emotional cord.
And I don't want you to go because I need a lot of people to feed my ego,
We would call that narcissistic supply, or Sam Backman's term. So they're addicts to the supply, but their 2-point play of proving you wrong, setting you up in double binds, and playing the greater victim keeps you hooked so you can't leave. And then when these two fail, then they love bomb you. And then you feel bad because you fall into their perspective like, oh, he's nice, or she's nice. I want that part back. That person's not all bad. That original love and fantasy that's there. So those are 3 hooks. Can't leave. You're trapped.
telling you that this message is about you, but it's not. It's about my need to feed my ego. It's about my need, not your inadequacy.
I need you to not know yourself so I can control you.
I need for you to be wrong. It's about my need. It's about my need.
I need you to not know yourself so I can control you.
It's about my need.
I need you to not know yourself so I can control you.
There, India's rephrasing. I need you to not know yourself so I can control you. So if I keep you distracted, keep you fragmented, keep you following my victim emotions or somebody else's emotions, you aren't in touch with yourself, your crack baby. I keep
We misdirect your attention. We misdirect your attention. We misdirect your attention. We misdirect your attention.
And I am good with words.
No. Now it's just playing with words right now. No. Now it's just playing with words right now.
Then you lose touch with your crack baby.
Authentic self. Shrunken, invisible, hidden. Authentic self. Shrunken, invisible, hidden. Authentic. I am safe back here. I am safe back here. I am safe back.
And then you're so disoriented, worried about doing something wrong, forgetting that the abuser's goal is to make sure that you're trapped being wrong. And they're having sadistic supply watching you follow their made-up shit to make you feel wrong. So then you fall into this trap.
What we're trying to do is mask pain. We're trying to mask vulnerability. What we're trying to do is mask pain. We're trying to mask vulnerability. What we're trying to do is mask pain. We're trying to mask vulnerability.
And this is a shorter version.
I need for you to be wrong, because if you're confident, you won't be dependent on me. You can go, and I don't want you to go because I need a lot of people to feed my ego. It's about my need.
I need you to not know yourself so I can control you.
I need for you to be wrong, and I don't want you to go. It's about my need.
So if my need is to make sure you stay, that'd be a more borderline focus, abandonment, terror. And I need you to be wrong. We call that blame shifting and all the other different terms. Then what's the codependence need that's trying to fight against that? Avoiding pain, being a good person, people pleasing, setting boundaries, that's like number 5. Chasing after a fantasy, maybe that's the hook for a narcissist and codependent. The narcissist is going to paint that fantasy and shower that fantasy that you can chase. Where someone who's not a narcissist, they're boring. They aren't so exciting. So now that you've seen, or I've presented this argument that the abuser, they're focused on their need. They don't see you. Even during the love bombing, they're focused on their need. They've remembered a script and they're repeating stuff, and they're just playing an act to woo you. But even knowing that, we see the videos and the honest, and we can't spot it. But this add-on frame of I need you to be wrong.
It's about my need. I need for you to be wrong, and I don't want you to go.
And this is always going to win against
the terror of negative emotions in yourself and in others. The terror of negative emotions in yourself and in others. The terror of negative emotions in yourself and in others.
I need for you to be wrong, and I don't want you to go. It's about
that's
my
focused.
need.
You hear that energy?
It's about my need. I need for you to be
wrong. The narcissist is focused on supply.
I don't want you to go. It's about my need.
If the codependent is just focused on this.
The terror of negative emotions in yourself and in others. The terror of negative emotions in yourself and in others. The terror of negative emotions in yourself and in others. The terror of negative emotions in yourself and in others.
This is about my fear of being blamed for things. It sits perfectly in there.
Perfection.
Yeah.
Perfection is a strategy to avoid blame, but somebody who spots that can just make up blame, and you fall for it. That's an uneven battle stage. If someone's willing to lie and be insincere and just poke anything to trigger your fear of being blamed, you'll always lose in time. no-win situation. It's very clever. But it's simple. That's why it's so fast. We try to use Vaknin's words and all these 7 layers and hours of videos to try to understand, which is maybe technically accurate, but that's not how they're operating. They don't have that cerebral map and navigating. It's just simple. I tracked you, anybody who's sensitive to blame, anybody who's focused on perfection, and I just make you wrong. And I can lie. I can make shit up. I can distract you. I can copy stuff. I can anything to knock you off your game of perfection. If that doesn't work, then I play tantrum. I play the biggest victim. Trigger your sympathy card. And then I get good at constantly shifting and distracting perspective through wordplay.
No. Now it's just playing with words right now. No. Now it's just playing with.
And it's not just that. I've been practicing this since 5 years old or 2 years old. So I can just flood you with pity, and then I make your mind blank.
Scares the shit out of me to just truly not know what I'm going to say next. Scares the shit out of me to just truly not know what I'm going to say next.
I just trigger someone to freeze.
Scares the shit out of me to just truly not know what I'm going to say next.
Who's got the easier job? The abuser, who's focused on making the codependent wrong? Or frozen, or chasing, or the codependent who's trying to avoid terror of negative emotions.
Terror of negative emotions in yourself and in others. Terror of negative emotions in yourself and in others. Terror
even this
of
is
negative.
frantic.
What we're trying to do is mask pain. We're trying to mask vulnerability. What we're trying to do is mask pain. We're trying to mask vulnerability. What we're trying.
While the narcissist is enjoying this.
It'll make your mind turn. It'll make your head spin. But for the narcissist, we're sitting there like in our heads like, yes, how powerful am I? It'll make your mind turn. It'll make your head spin. But for the narcissist, we're sitting there like in our heads like, yes, how powerful am I? It'll make your mind.
And this is just, terrifying.
That is fucking terrifying. That is fucking terrifying. That is fucking...
So, how do we summarize this last 10 minutes, almost? Did it land with anybody 20%? Okay, Brad's got it, or nodding.
Yeah.
But it's so monologue-y. I don't want to be a monologuer.
It's good, Dave.
Monologuing. 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 Monologuing.
I should give you all these things.
You can't blah 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 until blah 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 blah. You can't blah 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 until blah 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 blah.
Throw all kinds of formulas
blah,
at you.
Until blah 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 blah. You can't.
To just flood your perfectionist drive. Give me another guarantee of how the world works. A, B, C.
I want to set another boundary. I've got another boundary.
Set more boundaries everywhere. It's all about boundaries. Then we do that, yeah.
And then with this minefield, on a daily basis, what you have to do, run all the way around.
People need a more exciting minefield. Circuitous loop. That tone was pretty fun. Oh, circuitous loop.
And then with this minefield, on a daily basis, what you have to do, run all the way around your own
That's his Tourette's noise, see? Look at that.
Circuitous route.
Oh, Teal Swan. So let's see if anyone spots this as an example. So, recognize that the narcissist and the abuser, they need other people to be wrong, or they're worried about supply. And this is her admitting her shadow side.
The shadow side of my career is that I'm doing this to stay safe. Because for an extrasensory who's walking through the world watching everybody...
For an extrasensory, that's playing with words. Don't look at her eyes too much because you'll get hypnotized.
What the fuck is that?
Crazy
and
eyes.
The hair. What's going on with the hair? Who does that?
But focus on Teal. But she's got some crazy eyes. They're
crazy.
They're big. She was able to get these two, so she did a good job getting this interview going.
Bypass and watching the discrepancy between what's authentic about a person and what they actually show you, that's terrifying. It's basically the whole world.
Now it's just playing with words right now. No. Now it's just.
She's very good with words, so but try to keep up with Teal Swan's beautiful words. The JP's pretty good at poking fun on the interview. But not this portion, I think.
Bypass and watching the discrepancy.
Oh, if you can see JP's eye language, he's sort of giving nonverbal judgments. Or dissociating while she's talking nonsense.
Between what's authentic about a person and what they actually show you, that's terrifying. It's basically the whole world becomes a wolf in sheep's clothing.
The whole world becomes a wolf in sheep's clothing. That's the world of the borderline. That's the third-degree emotional skin. They don't know where the next judgment might come. They don't know when their toxic shame is going to just flood them. The more they get closer to people, oh, that's abandonment terror. So the more I get closer to you, you might abandon me. And when I get abandoned, I fall apart. I want connection, but I'm terrified of abandonment. So wolf in sheep's clothing, another way of framing it.
The more that I can wake people up, the safer I am.
Now that's her mission. If I make everyone talk spiritual language and deal with all their negative emotions by getting high vibrations, I won't get abandoned. I won't get judged. I need to just save the whole world.
So like you, almost my whole career is motivated by that terror.
Which means terror is flooding all of our teachings underneath the surface. My whole career is motivated by terror. I will say it's love, but right now I'm going to say terror because I want to sound smart and talk about shadow work. But
I think the look
it's driven out of terror.
The woman next to her, the look on her face says it all, doesn't it?
She always looks like that, so I don't know how.
Is this Teal Swan? Is this Teal Swan?
This is Teal Swan.
Oh, right.
This person.
I will be blocking her from my YouTube channel immediately.
This is JP. He's now gone into more political comedy, but he's pretty clever.
He's quite clever. He's quite funny. I like him.
And this person's attachment person. I forgot her name.
She looks startled.
She always looks like that. So it's her baseline.
A startled young Shirley Bassey is the way I would describe it.
She tries very hard. She puts a lot of content out, so I respect her effort.
But then to the other side, you can see that I actually genuinely feel a hell of a lot of, let's say, purpose and a lot of good feelings when I...
Look at her emotional literacy. Look at her alexithymia. I feel a hell of a lot of feelings, of which are purpose and how uncomfortable she is when she's talking about her feelings. Right, see right there. That's like the body language is saying she feels a lot of feelings, but what words come out that show what her feelings are? How does she describe it?
Purpose and a lot of good feelings when I feel...
A lot of good feelings. I feel a lot of good feelings while I'm clutching my fingers like this to say, this is the good feelings I feel.
This is a good feeling.
Connection with people when I'm actually the agent that helps.
I'm the agent that's strangling people to help people.
Yeah,
Look at my hands strangling people, connecting people. That's her nonverbal. She can play with words, but the physical body languages, you have tells.
Pedophilia.
Could be, yeah, sexual abuse. She had, that's part of her story, I think.
Them wake up. So it's both things are true. So it's not like, okay, I look at the shadow side and say, okay, I should quit my job today because it's really just coming from me trying to stay safe.
Yeah.
Or, oh, I have to somehow make that go away so that I'm only here because of this reason. It's that in all moments I have to be aware of where I am.
In all moments, every single moment, I must be hypervigilant. Sounds tiring. If she's not hypervigilant, what happens?
Forced to just listening to this. You just
relative to the person I'm sitting in front of. See, if I'm sitting in front of them, like
Oh. If she's not hypervigilant and sitting in front of somebody. Oh, this is normal speed. Look at her pace of her. So I'm breaking it up. In real time, you can't follow this.
Be aware of where I am relative to the person I'm sitting in front of. See, if I'm sitting in front of them, like, I have to stay safe, I have to stay safe, I have to stay safe. If that's there, I have to become aware of it. Otherwise, it's going to take over. And then the way that I help people is going to be.
So she has to stay hypervigilant to her terror of people. Otherwise, that shadow part will take her over. And how much will she own her imperfection? Oh, look at these eyes.
The lady on the side. Yo, the eyes, those eyes. Oh my
He
goodness.
looks like how I feel listening to this crap. Yeah.
Oh shit.
She's just in she's in rhythm, but if she lets her fear come out, this is what happens. Oh, look at that. See? If my fear comes out.
Stay safe. If that's there, I have to become aware of it. Otherwise, it's going to take over. And
otherwise, the fear is going to take over like that. Can you imagine a sadistic soul, something that's taking over, possessing you? That's on her back. That's the energy of her teaching frequency. Underneath all the sugar and all the flowery love and light language, you have this terror, this dripping claw. Oh, and right now, she's half dazed, but
then the way
now she's focused.
that I help people is going to be interesting at best.
So if her claw takes over, the way she's going to help people is interesting at best. Translate that literally. I mean, best case scenario, it's interesting. Every other scenario is under interesting, which means very ugly, very wounded healer, very sideways trauma, all flooding her clients that she's making tons of money off of. So, and she's smiling after she said that. And also she's sort of smiling. He's sort of scared smiling. You see his eyes. Interesting at best.
Interesting at best.
She's really saying, I don't know the fuck what I'm doing.
Her goal is to make other people save the world so they don't have anger, to protect her from an abandonment terror. Or BPD Mark's CDCC, consistent connection, all that big long thing he did that was just no abandonment terror.
Living the artist's life. It's crazy.
Oh, we're right at 9. How shall we end this? Oh. Had a nice other gaslighting example, but that's going to take too long.
You have any video of that lady with the eyes? That's a good way to end it. Just
Oh, let's see.
any petty point, any petty point, petty point, any petty point, any.
So that's a shortcut clue for borderlines. You start arguing with somebody who's going to argue any petty point. And that's a sloppy way of perfection. I just want to make you wrong. And any petty point.
Any petty point. Any petty point.
To get you reactive means I won. Because you're reactive, you're giving me energy, and you're not leaving. Because I have abandonment terror. I don't want to drown alone. So any petty point.
Any petty point. Any petty point. Petty point.
Helps me not feel alone. So that gives me a high. And does this link? I don't know. Let's see.
The narcissist interferes with your dreams and resonates with your wounds. There is no greater intimacy. The narcissist interferes with your dreams and resonates with your wounds. There is no greater intimacy. The narcissist
gets into your dreams and you're hooked. So the way out is...
Stop it. Stop it.
Stop being perfect.
Stop it.
It's a lose job.
Stop it.
And
stop it.
What's the point of what you're doing?
Perspective
What's the point of
is
what
more
you're
important
doing
than
right
perfection.
Now? What's the point of what you're
Perspective
doing
is more important
What's the
than
point
losing.
Of what you're doing right now? What's the point
Avoiding
of what
punishment.
You're doing right now? What's the point of what you're
Richard Grano said, "You're not special. Move the fuck on." Richard Grano said, "You're not special. Move the fuck on."
Oh, there is that.